Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Melffy Sphinx deck profile. So I'm really excited to show you guys this deck, because this is a super unique deck that basically combines two really interesting beast archetypes in the form of Sphinx and Melffy, which is a really cool thing to be able to do. I love the way this deck plays, because basically what you're doing with the deck is using the Melffy monsters to defend yourself until you can get to the Pyramid of Light, which is very quick in this deck to be able to then start special summoning out your really big Sphinx monsters. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Finian the Great Sphinx. We just play a single copy of this card because it can actually special summon itself out relatively easily. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. It cannot be special summoned except by paying 500 life points. When both Andro Sphinx and Sphinx Tellius are on your side of the field are destroyed at the same exact time. Then you can special summon this monster from your hand or deck. And when this card is special summoned, by paying 500 life points, increase this card's attack by 3,000 until the end phase, going to 6,500, which is a pretty cool thing to be able to do to play this really insanely powerful powerhouse of a monster. We then play 3 copies of Andro Sphinx. Andro Sphinx is a really good card in this deck as well, because this card is basically a free special summon. You have to pay 500 life points to summon it, which is pretty much nothing, and it has a really neat effect that you have to control the Pyramid of Light to special summon it on your side of the field, but it being a 3k attack point monster is just really good to give you these really powerful monsters on your side of the field to combo with your Melffy monsters. We then play 3 copies of Sphinx Tellia. This card is another special summon that you can use as long as you control Pyramid of Light. Just by paying 500 life points, you're going to get to special summon out this card to your side of the field, which is a really good effect just to give you another monster on your field. We then play 3 copies of Alpha, Master of Beast. Alpha is a really good card as well, because as long as your opponent has less attack points on their side of the field, which all of your Melffy monsters have very low attack points, you can special summon this card from your hand and then bounce it back to your hand with other monsters that you control that are beast monsters to be able to bounce monsters off your opponent's side of the field. But it's not once per turn that you can actually special summon this card back to the side of the field after you've bounced it, which is a really good effect just to give you another special summon to your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Melffy Puppy. Melffy Puppy is a really good card, and all of your Melffy monsters share the ability that if your opponent normal or special summons a monster except during the damage step, or if your opponent's monster targets this card for an attack, you can return it to the hand. So all of your monsters share that very unique effect to be able to return themselves back to the hand if they're targeted for an attack or your opponent normal or special summons a monster. Then they have a unique effect, where Melffy Puppy's unique effect is that when it's returned to your hand, you can special summon a level 2 or lower beast type monster from your deck, which is a really good effect just to give you an additional monster on your side of the field while you're trying to get to your copy of Pyramid of Light. We then play 3 copies of Melffy Caddy. Melffy Caddy is really good too in this deck. It has the same effect as Melffy Puppy, but its unique effect is that when it's special summoned to your side of the field, or returned to your hand, when it's returned to your hand, you can add 1 beast monster from your deck to your hand, which can be any of these cards that you see on your screen right now, which is really good. Pretty much the entire deck is searchable by your copies of your Melffy Caddy, which is really good. We then play just a single copy of Pony. Pony is really good too, because it has the ability to, when it's returned to your hand, you can add a level 2 or lower beast monster from your graveyard to your hand, which can be on any basically of your Melffy monsters and some of your other monsters like your copies of your Velfon, which you play as a 2 of. Now, Velfon is a very interesting card because it lets us go for cards like Natria Beast, and it's just an overall great tuner monster in the deck, because you can discard a card and then target a level 2 or lower beast monster in your graveyard and special summon it back to your side of the field, which is really helpful just to get you additional plays and for link plays. But this card combos very well with a card later in the deck to get you into some very good plays for synchro summonings, which is actually going to be your copy of Mind Mole, because Mind Mole works really good with this card, because basically what you're going to do is you can get this card out very easily with a card called Rescue Cat, getting both of these on your side of the field to go into an instant Natria Beast. And when this card is used as a synchro material, you get to draw a card when you go into Natria Beast, so it's a really good combo for these 2 monsters. We then play 2 copies of Mystical Beast of the Forest. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a beast monster, you get to target a card on the field and destroy it. So this card is really good it to be able to just pop a card on the field, and it's really good to combo with your copies of your Melffy puppy, because this card is basically just going to summon out your copy of this, and it gives you a free pop interruption against your opponent. We then play 3 copies of a Cat of Ill Omen. This card is so good in the deck to get to your copies of your Pyramid of Light, because it has the ability that when it's flipped face up, you get to select a trap in your deck and put it on top of your deck, which is really good to be able to search your copy of your Pyramid of Light and just immediately put it on top, so you can then start special summoning out your copies of your Sphinx monsters to your side of the field to give you those really big powerhouse cards. We then play for the last 3 monsters. We're playing 3 copies of Rescue Cat. Rescue Cat is a great card in this deck because it has the ability that you can send this card to the graveyard to special summon 2 level 3 or lower beast type monsters from your deck, but their effects are negated and also they're destroyed during the end phase, but that's totally fine because we're usually going to make a rank 2 on our side of the field, or we're going to link them away for additional plays, or even go in for a copy of Naturia Beast, which is really good. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. Did I say 1 copy of Monster Reborn? I meant 3, because you actually play 3 different Reborn cards in this deck. From Ayers Rock Sunrise to Monster Reborn and Melffy Tag, all 3 of these are Monster Reborns in their own right, which is what's really cool. Monster Reborn being a generic Monster Reborn, the copy of Ayers Rock Sunrise being a Monster Reborn for a Beast-type monster in the graveyard, and Melffy Tag being a Melffy special summon, which is really good just to get you those additional cards on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Scapegoat as well. Scapegoat is just really handy in this deck just to give you all those different monsters to use as link material and give you all sorts of different plays to go into in this deck. This card is very, very, very helpful for what you're trying to do. We then play 3 copies of Obedience School, because Obedience School is really good in this deck, because what it does is if you control no monsters, you can special summon up to 3 level 2 or lower beast effect monsters with different names for your deck, but their effects are negated and also you destroy them during the end phase. But for the rest of the term, you cannot special summon monsters except for beasts, which is totally fine because we have plenty of beast monsters in this deck to actually special summon. So this card is very good to be able to go into because everything in the main deck pretty much is a beast. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're playing 2 copies of Storming Mirror Force just to give us a little bit of protection, and then 3 copies of the Pyramid of Light. So these are really good handy cards in the deck, because what your Storming Mirror Force does is it protects your monsters on your side of the field, because when your opponent attacks you, you return all your opponent's attack position monsters back to the hand, and if they're from the extra deck, they go back to the extra deck. And then the Pyramid of Light is a very old school cool card that kind of came out during the Yu-Gi-Oh movie, the very first one, used by Anubis, which was really amazing. Because what this card does is when it's flipped face up, you are removed from your side of the field, you destroy Andro Sphinx and Sphinx Teleus on your side of the field and remove them from play if this card is destroyed. But basically you just activate this card on your side of the field, and it just kind of sits there to be able to let you special summon out your copies of your Andro Sphinx and your Sphinx Teleus to your side of the field. But if it does get destroyed or removed from the field, you destroy them at the same time, which is actually how you're going to special summon out your copy of your Athenian the Great Sphinx, is if this does get removed from the field. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Melffy of the Forest. This card is really good in the deck because what this card does is it pretty much searches your cards, because you can detach a material from this card to add a Melffy card from your deck to your hand. And if another face-up Melffy monster you control returns to your hand, then you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls and it can't attack. And also its effects are negated while it's face-up on the field, which is really good because your Melffys actually bounce themselves back to the hand when your opponent normal summons. So this card is basically going to get a negation and it gets you a search. So this card does it all and is a really good 2-of. We then play a single copy of the Joyous Melffy. Joyous Melffy is a good card in this deck too, because it lets you detach a material from this card, and then your Melffy monsters can attack directly this turn, which is just a great effect just to be able to attack your opponent over and over again. Even being able to attack them directly is just really good because you can basically make Zeus during main phase too. We then play a single copy of the Melffy Mommy. This card's really good in the deck too, because depending on the amount of materials it has, depends on the effects it gets. If it has 3 materials, it can't be destroyed by battle. If it has 4 materials, you take no battle damage from battles involving it. And then if it has 5 materials, when an attack is declared involving this card, an attack position monster, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the opponent's monster. This card is a great defensive card in this deck to be able to throw in while you're trying to get to the copy of Pyramid of Light. We then play a single copy of Ronin Raccoon because this card can make some really big tokens on your side of the field. And it's just a fantastic card overall in level 2 decks to be able to make as a rank 2. We play a single copy of Sky Cavalry because Sky Cavalry bounces stuff, and it's actually Dragoons out because this card can't be destroyed by battle. And while it has XZ materials, and at the end of the damage step, if it battles an opponent's monster, you can detach a material from this card and return that opponent's monster to the hand, but it doesn't target it, so it just bounces it, so that's why it's so good. We then play a single copy of Downward Magician because you can overlay this on top of one of your monsters that's a rank 3 or lower to basically give your Zeus an additional material during the main phase 2. We play a single copy of Zeus to round out the Xyz monsters because sometimes you will need to board wipe, and it does come in very handy to board wipe and get rid of your copy of your Pyramid of Light because it will destroy it at the exact same time to be able to special summon out your copy of your Tellian's the Great Sphinx, which will actually give you 9,500 damage on board on summon, which is really good because this will be at 3 and your big Sphinx will actually be at 65, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Boral Sword because it gets us all sorts of attacks against our opponent. So this comes in very, very handy in the deck. We play a single copy of Unicorn because Unicorn gets us pops. So this card, it comes in very handy, or gets us spins off the field. We play a single copy of Phoenix to pop spells and traps. One copy of Mrs. Radiant because Mrs. Radiant is just fantastic in this deck to go into because you can actually use your copies of your tokens that are your scapegoat tokens to go into this card. So it's a really good card to go into. One copy of IP Masquerena because IP Masquerena is just great in this deck because you can use your tokens to go into this card, and it's just basically any card that goes into this, and you're going to leave cards on your side of the field to link into Unicorn during your opponent's turn. One copy of Naturia Beast because Naturia Beast gets us to be able to negate spells, so it's a really good card in the deck. And a single copy of Herald because Herald has a really good effect to be able to negate cards. So this card comes in very handy, and it's super easy to summon because it takes a Velphon plus any level 2 monster in your deck to summon this card. So that's it from the deck, guys. I hope you enjoy it. It's a very, very unique deck. I wanted to upgrade my Sphinx decks and include something else in it from the previous build and give it an archetype to actually give it some plays outside of just getting to the Pyramid of Light and going off from there. And this deck does that very well, where you have the defensive plays of the Melffy monsters, and then you have the very attack-heavy plays to go in with your Sphinx monsters. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.